I auditioned for a band called Wickedlester that was going to transition into Kiss, but was not Kiss. It simply was a band that had a record deal, whose producer's attorney lived in my apartment building, and I was the babysitter for the attorney. And he knew I played guitar because he could hear me play guitar in the building. And he said, are you looking for a band? And I went, yes. And he goes, I know a guy who's producing a band who are changing over, and they're looking for new members. So he got me an audition, and I auditioned for, I called, he gave me Gene's phone number, I think, and I called him, and he said, can I see you play? And I said, yeah, I'm playing at this weekend I'm jamming with a band at a church on 6th Avenue and 12th Street. This was in June of '72. And he came down with Paul. And he watched me play with this band. And then I walked off stage and we talked a little bit. And he said, my name is Gene Klein, but I'm changing my name to Gene Simmons. And I said, oh, okay. Like the actress Gene Simmons? And he goes, no, like the guitar player for Savoy Brown, Kim Simmons. And I said, why? He says, because we're very much into British rock, like Slade. Like he started talking about Slade. I hadn't known about Slade yet. I was still an Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead hippie, whatever. And then he said, this is Stanley. Stanley, he called him. And he goes, but he's changing his name to Paul Stanley. And he said, what's your name? I said, John Segal. And he goes, that's too Jewish. You should change your name. That was like amongst the first things he ever said to me. He said, and he says, you look too Jewish with your glasses on. But that was weird, you know? I hadn't ever thought about me being Jewish or not Jewish or anything else. Like no one ever, especially a Jew calling another Jew too Jewish. Forget about an anti-Semite calling a Jew a Jew. No one ever addressed me one way or the other as being anything. So I was like, huh, interesting. Okay, so, but I understood. You know, they were going for a British thing, and they were changing their image. They were changing their image to this kind of, you know, Slade kind of a thing. And he said to me, here's my tape, it's Wickedlester, and we're going to fire these guys and come to a rehearsal. So I went to a rehearsal with Wickedlester, and everyone had beards and stuff, and except for Paul and Gene. And they said, we're firing those guys, and we're going to change it. And I went, okay. And then for a couple of rehearsals, probably along with 20 other guitar players. That's why I never made a big deal out of it. I never made a big deal out of it, ever. Some guy just said to me really early on with Twisted Sister, do you ever play with any other band? I went, no, not really, although I did audition. You know, I thought it was a funny story. I wasn't good enough. I mean, I've admitted it 100 times. When they got Ace, and I went and saw them with Ace, I went, wow, now I see why they got Ace. He was a great player. For them at that time, he was perfect. I hadn't evolved enough yet. You know, I don't know how to say it any more than I've said it 100 times, which was, it wasn't for me. Okay, great. They went on and became a phenomenon. And, you know, that was fine too. I don't ever think twice about it, you know. But I will tell you that when they finally got Ace and Peter, and they invited me down to the loft to hear them as Kiss, they probably had just named the band Kiss because they had a backdrop that was like a sheet with the word Kiss written on, like it was just the beginnings. It's important to note, if you're a guitar player, most bands in America back in the 70s, American rock bands, were playing Fender amplifiers or Trainer amplifiers. We're not playing Marshalls. That was the British thing. That was Jimi Hendrix and the British bands. But Kiss, when I went to the loft, had Marshalls. So they were obviously focused in on the British kind of thing. And where the New York Dolls was a complete opposite. And so seeing the Dolls during September 72 and then going to see Kiss in the loft, well, Kiss was a superior band, far superior, fully realized all the songs they did with Wickedlester transformed into a Kiss sound. And I was like, wow, those guys, you know, that's, now I get it. You know, now I get it. And then I became a huge Slade fan. You know, my whole head changed. When I joined Twisted, all those guys were like Mott the Hoople, David Bowie, Slade. You know, it was a whole different mentality. I came from a Allman Brothers Grateful Dead world. So it changed my head completely. So Gene and Paul were ahead of the curve that way, and they were visionaries that way, and they created a great band.